So it is primary season, and with all these talks in the Democratic Party going on about progressives being dividers and what electability looks like, whether or not we should have money in politics, grassroots organizing versus grassroots fundraising. All of these different conversations are taking place, and the establishment seems to think that the progressives and the leftists are the actual problem within the party and not the brain dead logic of the party and not these broken policies and these uninspiring milquetoast candidates. So, today, Kurt, Tabitha, and I are going to try to make it make sense. All right, you guys. So I have seen a lot of conversations online about what it takes to be an electable candidate, why we think money in politics is good or bad. And it seems to be solidifying around two candidates, honestly, within the Indiana Democratic Party, Bo Bai and JD Ford out in the 5th Congressional. But you can see this just popping up everywhere. And Tabitha, you can probably speak to this a little bit and tell us what's going on the ground in CD8 as well, um, to try to just like give us a flavor.
Well, the flavor is that I think the vice chair of District 8 thought she was gonna spank me and Christopher Richter a bit, and it didn't work out that way, because we're 2 different kinda candidates, you know? It would appear that Mario Foradori has been run off altogether. We've not heard from him since early March. He hasn't showed up for any of the events. I don't know if he's scared or if he's been compromised or what, which is really disappointing because, we had good talks with him like normal humans. Like me, him, and Mario were talking. I will also say, I don't think that Mary Allen is a bad person, but it does seem very clear that
And
she's
really quickly, just for the people who are not tuned into CD8, Tabitha and Christopher Rector and Mario Fiodori are the progressives, the working class candidates in that race, in that primary, and Mary Allen is the preferred Dem establishment. All right, sorry, just
right.
wanted to set the stage for people so they
Yeah,
understand.
thank you for that clarification. So I don't think that any of us think that like Mary Allen is like a bad guy. She's not. Like I've been around her a handful of times. But what I would say is it seems that her voice is restricted. And I've only heard her say genocide one time. I think she might have said it on our debate. Um, it makes me wonder what type of person and what type of candidate she truly is, right? Because it seems like she's being gagged, if you will. And I think the American voters, they just want to hear more, right? Like we've got different things going on, like trans rights issues, immigrant issues. Hell, there's a genocide going on right now. It's spreading from Palestine into Lebanon and Syria. And right now, it just seems that the Democratic Party establishment, if you will, is like, no, no, we don't say that. We can't say that. And I think that the American public, I mean, even me, just as a voter, right? Because I'm also a voter. I want to know what these people think, and therefore I'm speaking, right? Like I'm being authentic. I'm stepping forward. And they're just shitting the bed with all of us. And what I think is really egregious, right, is that we've got this elitist sort of mentality with the Democratic Party. And they're like, don't you dare go against us. Like, how dare you run? How dare you make this candidate that we picked spend their money to combat you underlings when they should be saving their time and their energy and their money for the big dog? When the Democratic Party, they're not even listening to their base, right? Like the type of things that we're talking about, irregardless of age, right? Like people that are truly progressive or democratic socialist or straight out socialist in this state will tell you, hey, we agree on these things. We agree on the fact that it's a genocide. We are disgusted by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and that they cannot get their shit together. And these are supposed to be the people leading the party. And Indiana is just another example of that. Much like even what happened in Indianapolis with the delegates, right? Like they purged like 80 or 100 people. They didn't have to do that. These are choices that they're making, and it's disgusting people. So yes, I actually decided to run for Congress because I looked at who was in the race. Mind you, I didn't know Christopher Ford. I didn't know Christopher Mario yet, but I looked at what was being presented essentially as the Democratic option, and I was like, no, like, this can't be it. Like, Mark Mesmer is just gonna wipe the floor with this person, and even though, like I said, I'm not hating on Mary in particular, but I do think that it is replicated throughout the state, and this is now the standard of the Democratic Party. And for those of us under this tent, if you will, we are so pissed off that normies, as I call them, are entering these races. They're leaving their jobs and entering the political arena because we're like, enough is enough already. You guys are not listening.
Yeah,
The
and what's
party is
happening in CD8, and people aren't familiar with all of these names, and that's fine. Even people in Indiana aren't familiar with who these people are. So we appreciate you sharing, what's happening there. But you can remove the names, and it's just a microcosm of what's happening across, many races, just like in CD5 that occurred last week with extremely progressive leftist Democratic Socialist candidate Jackson Franklin, uh, pretty much putting a planted candidate by the Indiana Democratic Party, a dude that doesn't even live in the district,
she doesn't even
kind of
go
put him in
here.
his place. Yeah, and
And I will
exposed a
tell you, I
lie.
fucking love
So
Jackson Franklin. I think he's the
yeah,
bomb. Like,
he's
we are,
exactly what we need. He's
yeah,
I
exactly what
also
we.
just
people like that.
I think that
Yeah.
yes, and the party is definitely an elitist party now. They have become a captured party by their donors, by their elite donors. And something, Kurt, you mentioned CD5, so you know I'm going to bring it there.
Hmm.
Something that I just thought was so funny was asking question about grassroots candidates and Jackson turning to JD and being like, "Bro, you are not grassroots. What the
Right.
hell?" And that has sparked a debate within the Democratic Party right now, the base here in Indiana, about what is a grassroots candidate, what
Hmm.
constitutes that. And I think that it is just such bad faith that the Democratic Party is treating their base as if they are stupid and saying, well, of course, JD is a grassroots candidate. He knows how to organize local, volunteers to knock doors and to phone bank.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, so does Todd Young. So does, like, every other
Right.
fucking Democrat, Republican. That's just politics.
Right.
To a
That's.
normie
Hmm.
person who does not give a shit about politics, if you ask them, they would not know that that's grassroots organizing. They would just
Hmm.
stare at you and go, "I thought that was campaigning." When we
Yeah,
say
and
grassroots candidate, we mean fundraising. We mean
right.
you are taking 10, 15, $20 donations from people in Fishers and Carmel and Muncie, which is what Jackson is doing, not
Hmm.
taking money from, General Motors and Anthem and CVS Caremark, because I am not stupid. The base is not stupid. We do not think that you are going to take money from Anthem and then turn around and go fight for a universal healthcare option. And thankfully, I think later in that discussion or debate, town hall, what have you, he did admit that he does not support universal health care. And gee, I fucking wonder why. Check out his
Yeah.
donor list. There's the answer.
Yeah, well, what it did, it sparked, like you said, and people, a lot of people use Facebook, and people know, and this is the difference between Facebook and Instagram. That I had a hard time coming to Facebook because Instagram was my main platform, but Facebook is more localized. Instagram's national, okay, but Facebook has a tendency to put into your algorithm and your feed people from your area, from your state. And so that's what happened is that some of us made a reel talking about this or made post about this, and it sparked some of these people to come out of the woodwork and try to tell us. First, I'll say, well, what lie did he make? Well, he called himself grassroots. To have the gall to tell somebody like you or I or Tabitha or Jackson, well, I don't think you understand or have the meaning of grassroots confused or don't understand that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're the one that doesn't have an understanding of it. There's a difference, and I think you said this, between a grassroots candidate and a grassroots campaign. A grassroots candidate also can have a grassroots campaign. a grassroots campaign does not mean that you're a grassroots candidate. You can't, like you said, take fucking money from corporate America and then go knock on doors and then all of a sudden that qualifies you as a fucking grassroots. Grassroots is funded by the people. A true progressive grassroots candidate does not believe in money and politics. And the Indiana Democratic Party and the National Democratic Party are not for that. And the DNC proved it when they failed to denounce or condemn the use of APAC money. That right there shows you who they are. The Democratic Party in this country is corrupt. They are corrupt, and they need to start fucking listening to the people who are screaming the loudest at them with a bullhorn, and they're failing to do that. And this is why there is such division. We are not the ones dividing this party and creating the division. We aren't the ones that are enabling fascism in this fucking country. These motherfuckers are, by allowing a war to continue, by allowing funding for ICE, by allowing a big fucking ugly ass bill be passed that, you know, destroyed healthcare and so many other agencies in this
By
country.
allowing a genocide to
By
start on
allowing a
their
genocide,
watch. I
exactly.
am so tired of hearing the Democrats now, Democratic voters on Facebook specifically, jump in the comments saying stupid trash takes like, oh, well, how the Gazans doing under Trump. Yeah, not much better. I understand that. I wasn't willing to vote for Kamala because she was going to fund and support a genocide just like her boss did. This happened under Biden. 2023 was Biden. He allowed for a genocide to start taking place October 8th. Sure, he came out and said to Bibi Netanyahu, you know, don't let this be your 9/11. Don't let this be your war on terror. We made a big mistake. We did some wrongs after 9/11 because we wanted revenge and we let our desire for revenge cloud our better judgment. We made some real tactical errors. Sure, is that great? Yeah, I agree with that message. It's fucking performative lip service when you then turn around and give weapons to them and you send money to them and we call it a weapons sale, but it's not a sale. They're not buying it from us. We are taking American taxpayer dollars, sending it to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Honeywell, and then they are taking those weapons with our taxpayer dollars and handing it to the Israelis to then commit a genocide. This is funded by our taxpayer dollars and was allowed to happen and expand under a Democratic president, which is why people could not vote for Kamala. And she was not a grassroots candidate or campaign either. Not only not in funding, but when you turn around and the entire Democratic base is saying to you, Joe Biden is too old. He promised to be a transition candidate. He promised to be the bridge candidate. He was going to take this election, win it because he knew what was at stake for the country, but he was going to hand the baton to the next generation, is what he lied to us and told us. He
Yeah,
gets
but
on a
that's the
debate
way.
stage and yells, "We beat Medicare." And people
Yeah.
realize that his brain is melting out of his fucking ears, that Gramps needs to go back to a home. And of
Hmm.
fucking course, the Democratic Party comes down on high and says, so Kamala is the anointed next candidate. We're not running primaries. We're not going to do democracy. We're the Democratic Party, but we're not going to do democracy. We're going to tell you to vote for Kamala, who literally said there will be no daylight between me and Biden on our policy toward Gaza. Vote for that. And that's what? The answer to all of my ills and woes is I'm going to fight fascism with an anti-democratic solution because that's what that was. And I really hated when I had conservative friends that are very I have a lot of apolitical friends who are just in Indiana, they tend to bend conservative if you forced them to pick an ideology, right? So I have a lot of conservative friends who kind of turned to me and were like, "Your party claims to care about democracy and want to save democracy. That's not democratic. Being forced Kamala Harris isn't democracy." And I have
Yeah,
to just
and
bite my tongue and say, "Yeah, you're right. Oh God."
yeah, and I understand, and everything that you say, I agree with you on. I really don't know if it would have made much of a difference if we had a primary or not, because we would have just got a different face with the same fucking values in there, because they would have shoved Hakeem Jeffries or somebody like that down our
Yeah, but
fucking
at least when
throats.
they say I'm going
So
to protect
I
democracy,
I
then I can
know, I
believe that
know.
that's the case.
I know. I understand that 100%, but, you know, at the point in time when it got to where it got, I knew things were gonna fall apart, that the fucking wheels come off the wagon. So, you know, it's
But to
and
tie it all
so
back to
here
the
we
point
are.
is that like you said, these people will stand aside for fascism. They are the people who are
Yeah,
opening the door for the fascists. They are the people who,
yeah.
I mean, because to your point, if we had had a primary, it wasn't going to be a progressive like I wanted anyway. It was probably going to be
Absolutely
another
not.
establishment genocide or
E
apologist. But
exactly,
at least then they could pretend to be
I
like, they could say, "Look, I know I'm a hypocrite, but at least I tried." Now we're just like full mask off going, "No, we're the party of democracy, but we don't practice democracy."
yeah, and MAGA beat the hell out of us for that. I mean, they pounded us to death on social media for
Thank
that
you.
exact thing that we
And also,
did, so
you lost
it
twice to Trump. We're such a
yeah,
great party, but you lost to this asshat. Like, by all metrics, we should have beaten him twice, right? We should have had
yeah,
there's
shouldn't even
plenty
have
of people
been
in our
yeah,
party. If you had just
yeah,
let Bernie Sanders win in 2016, would we be here today? I
fuck
don't
no, we
know. I'd
wouldn't.
like to think we wouldn't, right?
No, we
Thank you.
wouldn't.
I'm a Bernie bro. I'd
We
like to
wouldn't.
think we wouldn't.
Yeah. Fuck no, we wouldn't. We would have been on a different track altogether. This country would be. Look, when you as a governance allow, or when you as a government allow a foreign nation to dictate the way that you govern your people, you are a fucking failure from top to bottom. And that is what's happening. And I don't give a fuck if it's Israel or who. It doesn't matter what country it is. If a country dictates to a government how to fucking govern their people, you got a fucking problem. When they dictate the policy, you got a fucking problem. And that's what we're faced with. And that's why so many progressives or so many people are leaving the Democratic Party. They are hemorrhaging right now. People are leaving in droves to claim as independence or to promote the Democratic Socialist Party because those are the true values that all of us believe in. We will never abandon democratic values. We believe those to the core. But the way we go about shit has to change. Money has to fucking be removed from politics. And that is what we are up against and what we're fighting right now. And that's what the establishment, that's what they stand for.
Absolutely, it is because that's what they need to keep their shit going. That's what they need, and that's why they continuously pick the candidates who can fundraise the most amount of money, and then we wonder why this shit is broken, and it is so it is such a vicious feedback loop that we say that we need money to win elections to get money out of politics, but it takes money to win elections. And we have to keep taking from the same group of wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals because there's not that many of them, right? There's a small
Right.
concentration. So you cannot just say that, well, we take from Republican donors and not Democrat. They're the same people
It's the
because
same shit.
rich people and corporations are not buying an ideology. They're buying access to power so that they can make sure that these positions of power do not regulate their businesses that prevent them from making more money through exploiting the working class. So I'm just not interested in hearing any more arguments about why I need to take money from these rich companies and these rich individuals who, I mean, it's a Reid Hoffman, so it's a Democrat. I care now. No, I fucking
That's,
don't.
yeah,
Reid Hoffman is not on my side. He's on the side of the 1% because that is his team. That is his team. He plays for the green team and they always want more money. And so they are going to buy up politicians on both sides of the aisle. Companies will do the same. They will buy up politicians on both sides of the aisle, not because they are trying to do anything other than fatten their pockets, pad their
mhm.
pockets. That is it.
Look, here's
And
the bottom
why
line. Here's the bottom line. The established Dems, the centrists, the moderates, those who believe that money wins elections, they do not do what we need them to do. They do what the money needs them to do. And that is the bottom line. And that is why we need to get money out of politics. They need to do what the fucking people want them to do, not what these corporate Americans, these oligarchs, these elitists, the money that is being spent. Look, when a candidate like Mary Allen or J.D. Ford or Cory Booker or this fucker from Maine, this Jared Golden, when these people take money from corporate or for APAC or whatever, you're fooling yourself if you do not think that those donors are going to call in that favor for a favor later. You're fucking fooling yourself. AT&T or General Motors doesn't give a dude running for Congress in Indiana $2,500 if they don't expect something from the motherfucker. A car dealership tycoon doesn't give a dude, running for Secretary of State of Indiana $300,000 fucking dollars if he doesn't want something from that. And that's what the problem is. And these established Democrats are just, they've got their heads up their ass. And I don't, but yeah, we're the ones that are, causing the division, and we're not enabling the fascists. We're not fucking empowering them. The centrists are. The damn establishment is, and that's the fucking problem that we have with them.
I
And they
just want
better
to
start
chime in
listening
real
to us.
fast because, a lot of people are going to say, Mary Allen, for an example, that she's not taking money from big corporate donors and stuff like that. However, I also think that it doesn't send the right signal. The optics are bad whenever the majority of your campaign donations are from the actual Democratic establishment. I'm not saying that they can't do it, but the optics are really bad, especially whenever you're telling people, hey, here's our candidate. But then you're omitting the fact that there are 3 other candidates in the race, right? And then you want to criminalize us essentially by saying, you're not doing as much as you can. You're not the right type of candidate, but they also are not like really displaying, I feel like, truly democratic values. And you're seeing this sort of thing as well with these candidates, right? Like anytime you hear from maybe say like an establishment Dem, and the ones especially that want to fight us, for example, they're like, well, this is the candidate because they are following the rules and they are doing exactly what the party says, and they're towing the line. When the American public are like, but we don't want that. Like, we don't want people that are towing the line. Like, we keep telling you, we keep beating our head against the wall, and you are not listening.
Yes. I don't really hang around Dem county
Yeah,
parties.
I don't
I
either.
have better things to do with my time. I know that the young Dems in this county have tried to recruit me several times, and I think I think that young people are starved for community, but it sure as shit is not that community.
Yeah.
But
I,
anyway,
I I tried
I
to, but they told me not to come back.
it's not a good hang,
So,
Kurt. Don't worry about it. It's really
yeah,
not a
I'm
good hang.
not. It wasn't any sweat off my brow, that's for damn sure. I mean,
Really
it's
think
that.
that these people they try to tell you that they are socially liberal. So they have it, but you care about, trans issues and gay rights. You care about access to health care. You care about abortion and women's reproductive rights. We care about public education. They say all these things because they are socially liberal. But then when it comes down to it, because of the money in politics, they are fiscally conservative every
Mhm.
fucking time when it comes down to actually, passing some kind of legislation that would expand healthcare to all and decouple it from your employment. Every time there is always a spoiler that gets sent out, or like the guy you mentioned in Maine, who was the spoiler
Mhm.
for the war, because we always need a spoiler so that the Dems can sit there and go, oh, see, there was nothing we could do, and just sing the song of there's nothing we could do. And actually, what we need from you is more money and more votes to put us into bigger majorities in power so
Mhm.
that we can turn around and not codify Roe v. Wade and not raise the minimum wage. I mean, like, people want to talk about this shit not being livable. The minimum wage has sat at 7.25 since 2009. Right?
Mhm.
Barack Obama was president. He was also president all the way up until when? 2016? Okay, that's and we had I know that we didn't have the House, the Senate, the courts. We didn't have it all for the whole time. There was a moment in the sun that we did though, and it just wasn't that important, healthcare. I mean, yeah, sure, we got the ACA. I'm not saying that it's not great. I think I heard somebody say it being a bandage solution, and we should temporarily fund it to continue it to be a bandage solution. The problem with that is that that is exactly how it was sold to the American public back then. Here it is 2026, and we are still having conversations in the Democratic Party about how we need to continue to fund corporate subsidies for healthcare and call that something that's good and democratic and equitable for people, and say, or at the very worst, the most critical they'll get is calling it a band-aid solution until we can get to universal health care. Okay, well, my entire fucking lifetime you've been saying that. I'm now 30 years old. So when are we going to actually stop the Band-Aid solution? When are we going to fix it? We're never going to, because you've essentially cauterized the wound in your eyes. So it's not we're not bleeding out anymore. We
Well,
very much still are, but they
yeah.
aren't paying attention because they are detached from their base. They're totally out of touch.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's the case with any of these programs or any of these things you want to talk about, whether it be mental health or whether it be the healthcare system, whatever the case may be. Okay, this is not something that has happened overnight. This has been a slow deterioration in policies that were made 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, we can go all the way back to Nixon. Healthcare was never
One day we should.
completely free or a nonprofit thing in this country. It never was. But when Nixon changed that project trajectory and the HMO thing, I can't remember the name of the bill, but when that thing changed and came out, that's when the direction of the profit of healthcare and where it has escalated to now, just like with mental health and Jimmy Carter and the bill he signed and then Reagan destroyed it. I mean, this is what's happened over time. These are not events that have slowly or that have just happened overnight. These are things that have slowly uh, evolved, and because that's how policy works. When a president, and this is what's so stupid about fucking people think as soon as like Joe come in and that shit he did on his first day was affecting things right away. There are decisions that a president can make that absolutely can have immediate effect, but most of the time when there's actually a bill or an act that's passed by Congress, it's just like the big beautiful bill. We if people think they are feeling the effects right now, just
Right.
give it 5 or 10 years if it doesn't get
Yes.
reversed. Then you're gonna see total fucking chaos in this country because
you know,
it will evolve into what they want it to evolve into now. So it's just crazy, but this is what the established Dems are enabling and empowering by being who they are and what they are. Do you remember when Barack, put, Merrick Garland up for the Supreme Court? Republicans killed, they walked away from it. That's what we should have done. Every single one of these motherfuckers, when he put in somebody that we knew that they knew was going to do this shit, they should have walked away from it.
No, that's the
And
problem with the Democrats. They will literally
right,
sacrifice progress on the altar of procedure every time.
exactly. They
sacrifice
think
is
this is the
exactly what I
way
was
to
gonna
do.
say because
That's
I
and
mean, like with the Merrick Garland example, I mean, literally, and then not that much longer, they could because they said, okay, well, fine. They beat us, whatever. We'll take the L. We're good. We're going to
right.
stand up. When they go low, we go high. And then they
We'll
have Amy
work with
Coney
you.
Barrett, and they literally
Yeah,
smashed it. And we're like, so everything
yeah.
that we said about Merrick Garland, fuck that. New rules apply now because it's my team. And this is the thing
Mhm,
that I keep saying to the Dems, that this is what Republicans love about their
mhm.
politicians and why they will never come to you. They're never coming to your side, idiots. They don't want you. They want
Right.
people, they want fighters, and they want people who will smash the system for them. They think that it was cool what the Republicans did. What Mitch McConnell was able to do in the Supreme Court, they think is fucking awesome because in their mind, it's the A team. By any means necessary, the ends justify the means. If I have to smash a few fucking heads to get to the end goal of keeping America safe from the woke liberal idiocy, then I will do it, even if that means being a wholesale hypocrite with no principles. Because in their mind, that's not the end goal. The end goal is owning the libs. And that's a stupid goal, and I understand that. But goddamn, do I wish that the Dems would have take on that energy and use it for good. Instead of owning the libs or fighting woke idiocy, instead fighting for working class people. More people would be fine with you turning around and abandoning procedure if it was in favor of progress. If you were going to say, well, yeah, sure, the Senate parliamentarian came out with some draconian rule about why an EO can't sign away student loan debt, there was nothing we could do. Yeah, sure, you could say that. Or you could go, well, who decides? You some
Mhm.
draconian law? I'm Congress. Look at me be a law. I can come in. Congress could have stepped up and helped, embolden that EO. If they couldn't, then the president could come through and be like, you know what, actually, fuck you and your Senate parliamentarian. I don't give a damn. Student loans, gone. Because I have a mandate. People elected me to cancel student loan debt. I promised it. It was a campaign promise, and I got a mandate. Isn't that what the fuck the president says now? That's what he does now. He smashes every norm we have, every rule we have, every
Absolutely.
procedure we have, so that he can have his side winning. And it is
He's the
destroying our
most
country. And
yeah,
instead
he's
of
the most
us deciding we will take a play from that book and build our country back, we just go, "Oh, there was nothing we could do. We'll have to listen to the rules."
Well,
How do you
that's what I was
play in a
gonna
game
say,
that is rigged
Sarah.
this way?
We
It's
should
not
be
it's rigged.
we should be fucking shouting
corruption.
them down in Congress. Like, if they can do it in Spain, we can do it here. We've got socialists on social media being filmed in Spain talking more shit about the American government than the Democrats will. It's like
Yeah,
people are
everywhere.
literally dying, and the Democrats are like, well, let's sacrifice a few more bodies for the cause. Like, whose cause?
Yeah, New
I
Zealand,
after all of
Austria,
this
France, Australia,
After all of this
England.
is over, I want and hope to see, and I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been a town hall or a debate. It doesn't matter. I hope to see Watergate style accountability. I want to see new legislation. Like, sure, new Nuremberg trials, whatever. That sounds great. The Nuremberg trials were a fucking sham. Let's be honest. People don't really actually understand what that was. We held a few people accountable, but everybody underneath got away. A lot of people got sent to America to become under Operation Paperclip. They got to become Americans and work for our government under the Manhattan Project. But what I want to see is real accountability. I want to see real people going to jail. I want to see the people who pulled the trigger on Alex Peretti and Renee Good go to fucking jail. I want to see the people who called that order in or said that that was okay. I want to see them go to fucking jail. I want to see anybody who covered that shit up or gave cover to those men in their units go to jail. But I want to see Congress do more than just hold people accountable. I want to see your dumbasses go ahead and make some legislation. I want to see you look in the fucking thing and go, okay, so there are a lot of kinks in our system. Here's an point they exploited. Here's another point he exploited. Here's another point. Now, what kind of legislation are we going to pass to ensure that this does not happen again? I understand that after Watergate, not everything was perfect. The legislation was weak, right? But they attempted to put some kind of guardrails around it. That's why Trump had to smash some of these guardrails. For however weak they were at least there. What we should have been doing was consistently building them up and strengthening them, but we don't do that. We would rather send an ambulance in and collect bodies than actually try to do
Yeah.
preventative work. But I think that it's time that we had a fucking common sense Congress that would, and I don't even care if it's all progressives or I just want them to not be bought by donors, by large donors and corporations, and I want them to actually start thinking about what can we do to ensure that this shit never happens again? Because just putting Democrats in power is honestly not the answer. That is not going to ensure that this never happens again, especially when a lot of these establishment Dems are not even talking about what comes next. Sure,
Well,
impeachment trials, sure, accountability, sure, all of that is great. What are you going to do to ensure this never happens again? And just prosecuting people is not enough. We need to strengthen regulations. We need to add legislation. We need to do something serious here. And we need to stop shutting progressives and leftists up and start listening to them because we are the fucking weirdos who sit around and think about these issues and think and do the research and think about what could come next and try to imagine a better system. That is why they are constantly telling us we're the dividers and we are annoying because we are
well,
constantly trying to get them to imagine better, do better, try harder, something, progress.
Cook, girl, cook.
well, I take pride in being viewed as a weirdo, so fuck that, But and I appreciate your passion and everything that you're saying there, but you're reaching for something that ain't gonna happen right now. It's not. I mean, we just don't have the people in place, nor do we have the system in place to do anything like that. You know, goddamn well, these people are gonna walk scot free. Nothing's gonna happen to them, even if we get control. It's not going to happen because we don't have people in place that will do that. That's why we have to continue to speak up and fight. What happened during Watergate, yeah, they could have done a lot of things better and they did some things. That was a completely different time then. I mean, I remember, and I don't know if I've ever said this
People
to you,
had
talking about,
shame.
do you remember a presidential candidate by the name of Gary Hart? So he was kind of the Gavin Newsom of the 80s. He was a good looking guy, and I'm just saying,
No,
not
I get
not
you. No, I
you
get
know,
you.
he
People do
was a
like him because he's
good-looking
a good-looking guy. Yep.
people liked him because he was charismatic and he was a good-looking guy and intelligent and did a lot of things. Okay, there was a photo that was leaked in the National Enquirer, which used to be a really popular gossip magazine back in the day, um, of him with his girlfriend. Okay, a picture of him and his girlfriend, and I think it was down in Key West, if I'm not mistaken. Destroyed his campaign. He
Oh,
was the
I was gonna
front
say, is this
runner.
a story about how back in the day
He
the emperor had no clothes, did something to people?
No,
'Cause I come
well,
from a time in
but
politics where you grab them by the P word, and that does
right.
nothing to your
No, no, no. This came from a time when if you were pictured with a mistress, and I mean, we got to go back to when Kennedy. It doesn't always happen, but John Kennedy, Marilyn sang "Happy Birthday" to him, and basically a striptease type, you know, way of doing it.
dress was
You
quite,
know,
it was quite a dress too, I
yeah, and
mean,
I mean just the way she sang it. But anyway, but Gary Hart's
absolutely.
complete campaign was destroyed because he pictured leaks of him and his girlfriend. So we're in a different world nowadays. Completely different world. It's just like the situation that has gone on with Eric Swalwell. Okay, it's amazing to me online how MAGA is going about this. Well, there's evidence against him. And I'm like, wait a minute. There is no more or any different type of evidence against Eric Swalwell than the mountain of the same type of evidence against Trump. But you going to believe Swalwell, which is fine. His ass needs to go too. But there is no difference. There is no video. There are testimonies and there are accounts from women making accusations against him, and I believe the women. I'm not saying that, but they are no different than the mountain of women and evidence that has been brought up against Trump. No different. There are accusations, there are testimonies. Fuck, there was court filings. There was a lawsuit filed against him and Jeffrey Epstein. There's actually a ton more evidence. They will turn their eye to that, but then on Eric Swalwell, but I think we also proved as Democratic progressives that if you behave like this, we don't give a fuck who you are. We're done with you because this has to change. This no longer can be accepted. And now we find out that there's 69 million men that visit this website where husbands are drugging and raping their wives and people are flocking to this website watching it. And evidently, this was brought up in Congress, this website, two different occasions, like 20 years ago, and they were like, "Well, he's not making money." And now this leaks that this is what's happening in our country. I mean, this is the kind of bullshit that happens when you are not progressive and you don't stand for the people and you do what is right for the citizens of the country. I mean, this kind of behavior has to change all across the board. S-
And I really
People need
hope
to be
this
put
is no, go ahead, sorry.
no, people need to be put in front of profit. Period. We need to get rid of corporate America. My heart breaks to see what Disney's doing right now. I mean, I'm a child of Disney. When I was a kid, I think I was 5 or 6 or 7 years old when The Jungle Book came out. Okay, I saw it at a movie theater. Became one of my favorite movies I've ever seen in my life. I still, to this day, Jungle Book is one of my favorites. Okay, my daughter, when she was growing up, she's 32, you know, Disney movies. That's all we used to sit and watch at night before she'd go to bed. We'd watch Disney movie. I don't know how many fucking times I've watched Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. I mean, it's just crazy. And now to
What
see
did
that,
Disney do?
yeah.
I must be behind. What did Disney do?
Oh,
Because
well, Disney,
there's a
the
lot of things, sorry.
new CEO comes up in February. He comes in, and then just this
Josh
week they
DeMario?
laid off. Yeah, they laid off. First off, they made $12 billion last year. They did not pay 1 cent of income tax. They actually got a $1.42 billion tax refund.
Don't forget
And
that
then,
they don't pay their workers living wages either. There are so many of
yeah,
my friends who are Disney employees, and they live in their car. Go on.
well, 1,000 people gone. They laid him off.
It is Josh D'Amario,
Fired him.
sorry.
Fired him. Yes,
Sorry,
yes,
Josh
Josh D'Amario.
D'Amaro.
But look,
Yeah,
D'Amaro.
D'Amaro.
it's not
Yeah.
just
So
Disney. As an
I thought you were
example,
talking
no,
about I thought
no.
you were talking about
No.
Disney propping up, the Taylor Frankie Paul, the Bachelorette being a domestic violence
No.
abuser. The reason I'm talking about is because
No, but
Disney is actually making they had an entire season of The Bachelorette that was recorded around the star of the show, and I'm gonna butcher it for anyone who watches The Bachelorette. I'm so sorry. I don't fuck with that show. They made an entire season around a Mormon woman from another reality show that they have who is a domestic abuser. She also is being abused by the man that she's with, but they're abusing each other. And so to see that being propped up as like what The Bachelorette is going to be that's what I thought you were talking about for
yeah.
Disney. They're making a
No.
lot of shameful decisions at this moment.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, what's going on at Disney? Which thing are we
Yeah,
mad about? Because
Well,
and
Disney
I
is
read
actually
and I
really
read an
black.
article that Snapchat did the same thing, or they've just done the same thing. It's across the board,
About the Republicans and the Democrats being upset about Democrats doing one thing, but the Republicans do it too, and you don't seem mad. Do you remember Bob Menendez? I think that's who it was, the gold
Oh, yeah.
bars in the fucking
Yeah.
bags. I mean,
Mhm.
I heard endlessly in a couple of my classes that year, people talking about, well, the Democrats are so corrupt. They've got literal gold bars in their bags. And you're just like,
Mhm.
okay, and Jared Kushner takes $2 billion from a Saudi fucking public funds and stuffs it in his pocket. You don't blink an eye at that. I mean,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
you
It's,
people don't
you
care
know,
about corruption. You don't care
they
about it
don't.
unless it is your team. In the same way, the Democratic Party, they will say
Mhm.
corruption is bad. Diego Morales is corrupt, and we need to get corruption out of the Secretary of State's office. That's why you should vote for me, Bo Bai, who takes $300,000 from Robert Johnson,
Yeah.
who is an automobile mogul, while I am running the auto division. No conflict of interest there. No corruption to see here. Like,
Well,
this
and
is
we
why
know
people
that
cannot take you fucking seriously.
yeah, we know the connection there with Bo. I mean, we discussed some of it last night on some of the things that, I was diving into that you'd already covered, and I knew I was like, uh, going back, the Israeli money, going back to when Eric Holcomb was our governor, and some of the shit that has gone on, and then you could just connect it here: Holcomb, Doe, Bai, Evan. It just goes down the line. It's just and they to your point, the Democrats want to sit there, the Democratic establishment, I should say, not Democrats like us. They want to say, oh, look at the corruption on their side, but they won't acknowledge it on their own. They won't promote somebody who Blythe Potter, who's not perfect, who has questions about her, who used to be a Republican. I mean, the list goes on. No politician is perfect, and anybody who thinks they are is fucked up in the head. We want to slam on her because she's got tattoos and a nose ring, but we're going to accept the fucking corruption that is just, I mean, tons of it behind Bo Bai. It's
well, and I
unreal.
want to
So
speak out too. I often, whenever I'm speaking in public as a politician, right? It seems weird to even say it out loud, but I often have these types of conversations where I'm like, there's me as the candidate, there's me as the Hoosier and the voter, and I'm honest with people. And I'm like, this corruption absolutely has to stop. It's freaking ridiculous at this point because
hmm
it's so just blatant. And I'm like, why can't we just find people from the working class that will be honest, right? But the minute that any politician starts to be honest, they start to get phone calls like Jackson Franklin, right? Like, I'm surprised my phone's not blowing up yet. It's probably because they don't think that I'm worth calling, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to shut up. And I think that is the thing right there, too. You do have these politicians out here that are starting to call out nonsense. And some way it's going to work through, whatever rings for them to tell them to shut up. Because you can't have politicians going against the establishment, even if it's the truth. But I think that's actually what people want to hear. Like, that they're constantly talking about, like, why can't we get people engaged? Because you're a bunch of liars. You stand for nothing.
well, they're
Yeah,
not
you have
only not getting people
uninspiring
to engage,
candidates.
people are leaving the party. I mean, it's alarming seeing the number of people that have that are leaving the party and that have just said, "Fuck, I'm done with you guys. What are my options?" Okay, I can become an independent, libertarian, Green Party, whatever the fuck you want to do. That's fine. But what's gaining momentum in this country is democratic socialists. And that's where I think everybody needs to pay attention to what's happening there and throw your support back there. Educate yourself about what democratic socialist means, first off, okay? It's not what you think it is. People need to understand what it's all about, because when you find out about the values of a democratic socialist, and we believe in free health care, honest wages, good paying jobs, affordable
The
housing,
backbone
all of
of the
these things.
Democratic Socialist
The
Party is
backbone,
really freedom and liberty, and I think
exactly.
when you think
People,
about it
people.
right, it's the freedom and liberty of people in the way
Yes.
that it actually means. When you have a livable wage, you have the freedom to then choose what your place you live, what groceries you buy. You have the freedom to choose what kind of milk you buy. Maybe you don't buy the expensive organic milk because you can't afford $9 a gallon of milk. You can only afford $2. But if you had a livable wage, you now have the freedom to choose what you want to do with that. You have the liberty of choosing your place of employment if we had universal health care, because your health care is
Mhm.
now not tied to your place of employment. I think that
Exactly.
independence would be more susceptible to this kind of to this idea, just because like most of my independent friends are not really libertarian. They
Mhm.
think independent means like I don't fuck with either party, you're both corrupt. I am an
Right.
issues voter and I'll just decide based off of issues and
Well,
vibes. They don't say
Right.
vibes, that is.
Right.
But I think because they center mostly on freedoms and liberties, and when I hear them talking about those freedoms and liberties, it exactly aligns with these democratic socialist values. They just don't like the boogeyman socialist word. And
And if you approach people and all of those things that you listed about the healthcare and all that, if you approach people and if that's how you start off, do you believe in free healthcare? Do you believe in a livable wage? Do you believe, if you ask them those things and they say yes, then you say, well, you are a democratic socialist. I'll tell you one other thing that democratic socialists know about, and that's the corner store. We know what a corner store is.
and we'll
So
meet you there. We're gonna have the revolution will be organized at
Ex
the corner
we're
store.
gonna
They'll never
well,
spend our
find us.
fucking money there, and we
yeah.
know what a corner store is, and if nobody knows what
That
I'm
man
talking
doesn't
about,
know what
well,
a corner store is,
he
though.
doesn't know
Like,
fucking
Well,
shit.
and just to like really quickly, like, because I'm this, Arab in the fucking room. It's the corner store is the cornerstone of the community. It is the backbone of
Mhm,
the community.
mhm,
Oftentimes in like Arab Indianapolis in the 1920s, the corner store is where you went to buy all of your groceries and foods. But it's also the place where like if you didn't have money, especially during the Great Depression, people who didn't have money would come in and
right,
hand IOUs to the owner of the corner store, and they would still get bread and milk and eggs to feed their family
mhm,
on the exchange of I know you're good on it and you'll come back to it and come back for that,
yeah.
because the corner store is the cornerstone of the community. But of course Trump doesn't know that because that man has no community.
W w
He stands for nothing.
When I was a young kid, I lived in an area in Wabash that was near General Tire Factory, which was one of the biggest employers of our town at that time. This was back in the 60s, okay, and early 70s. I lived in a old residential part of town. I mean, it was near the factory. So we had three corner stores within walking distance: Thomas Milk House, Stop and Go, and I can't remember the other one because he sold liquor. And you could go in there, but it smelled like booze, and mom and dad didn't let us go there. But Thomas Milk House and Stop and Go were within, I mean, just a couple blocks from our house. So within our little area that we lived in Wabash, we had three corner stores. So it doesn't have to be on a corner, but that's where the name came from. In an urban setting, it was usually on a corner. That's where people flock to. Any of your local little stores that survived for years, where you could go and get, a chocola and some red vines, that kind of stuff. That's what a
And if you
corner
still
store
have
is.
those things
Yeah.
in your communities, please visit them, please frequent them,
Exactly.
please support them,
Yes.
because I wish I had more of those in my community, but my
Yeah.
community is being eaten up by big corporations
yeah.
and data
Yeah.
centers. So
Yeah.
And
would
also, I
love to
just
visit
want to
that.
comment. This is something that I do and something that I look for in people. If you want to really know if someone's about small business and helping out their neighbor and stuff like that, look at the politicians that pay for things in cash, for example, because
Mhm.
a lot of people are going away from buying in cash. But when you pay for things in cash, especially tips, stuff like that, that actually helps the small business. It helps people like your servers and your waiters and all that sort of thing. Also, a flag for politicians to the American public to let them know that they're friendly is people over profit, people over profits. If you have some variation of things like that, that a politician in your race is flagging to you or tagging, they are trying to tell you that they are a friendly politician for the working class.
Exactly. And that's what we all need to support, and that's what we need more of. I mean, that's the thing. And the cash thing is you're exactly right. Being an owner of a small business for over 20 years, the processing fees that I had to pay and the money that I would lose was crazy. But I had to, I was always involved in big tickets. Mine weren't $20 sales. Mine were two, three, $4,000 sales. We were putting new flooring in people's homes and redoing stuff like that. But I also then, after I closed down, I worked as a bartender for about 4 or 5 years. And let me tell you, when you put a tip on a credit card, the place that you work for, they will steal from that. They will take from that, and they will tell you, well, they've got taxes. They got bullshit. They'll take from it. If you go into an establishment and you got to pay your bill with your credit card, do that. But please tip with cash, because when you tip with cash, that's a way that server, that bartender, that person can keep more of the money, or can keep the money, because there's just a certain percentage that has to be, but that's just tips. So I'm glad you brought that up. So, man, my head's like, you know, but this happens when the three of us get together, which I
I say, yeah,
love. This is
now we're on small business.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fine.
But, the bottom line, what this all is about is grassroots candidates, and supporting people, supporting leftists, supporting people on the far left that are gonna make a difference in this country. We cannot change the Democratic Party. It has to be reformed, and it's unfortunately going to take some time to do this. This is not a battle that's going to be won in one primary or one election cycle. It's going to take two or three. As long as we keep, the pedal to the metal, we can get it done. My fear is that we're gonna lose, some of the momentum and enthusiasm. So that's why I think it's important that people like us get together. Even though we have a small audience right now, we're working on this. We're trying to get our voices be heard by more people, because the more people like us who talk about this shit, the more that it's in conversation, the more that people understand, the more that people have knowledge. And that's one thing I appreciate about you guys, is that you bring the knowledge, you bring the facts, you bring the receipts. We've all lived through this. We have different experiences, but we're all the same in many ways. So it's just, it has to change. And there's a lot of people in our state that we want to give the big fuck you to. So I'm going to keep names out of it, but we know who they are.
Well, and I'll also comment that something that I love about Hoosiers just in general, regardless of party, like for the little guy, we're not bootlickers. People in this state don't
Mhm.
like that shit, right? The minute that you start to tell them what to do, who to be around, who to vote for, they start kind of turning the dial down and they're like, what is it about this person that you want me to vote for? Like, what is the man behind the mask sort of momentum that you have with this person? Why are you white knuckling it? Why will you refuse to let democracy play out?
Well, the reason that is because even though there are a lot of Hoosiers like you just described, there are a lot of Hoosiers who are racist, who believe in white supremacy, who go to church on Sunday and then Sunday night will post shit against immigrants or blacks. This is who the state is. My town is a perfect example. The fucking control that religion has in my community is staggeringly frightful. It's beyond it's just something I never thought that we would see. And that's the reason why. Keep in mind, Indiana is an extremely racist state. We always have been. One of the major centers for the KKK in the 20s and 30s. We had one of the largest concentrations of sundown towns because that is who a lot of Hoosiers are. But there are a lot of Hoosiers like us who say fuck no to that. So
Well,
I
that's why we have to get
definitely
loud.
just
yeah,
to add some a study to it that I found interesting. I also think that Hoosiers are not bootlickers. I think that they don't take shit lying down.
right.
But I also have read a study by I believe it was Ashley Jardina. It doesn't White Identity Politics is the name of the study, where she is trying to suss out, is it racism? Is it just the hatred of others that causes white people to vote the way that they do? And what she found time and time again was that it's actually not the hatred of the out group. It is the love of and identity of the in group, and understanding, to your point, Kurt, about white supremacy, understanding that your group benefits because of the white supremacist system. So it's
Hmm.
even there is racism. That's not it's her study does not discount racism. It's just saying that for the folks who aren't racist but will still vote conservative, because like yes, Hoosiers aren't bootlickers, but they do. But they are. Like
Hmm.
they aren't, but they are. They lick the boot of the Republicans, and they will continue to, even though the Republicans step on their necks. And I think the misconception a lot of Hoosiers have, a good meaning Hoosiers like us, is that if you just bring the horse to water, it will drink and then we will all
Hmm.
prosper. And that's not true. You will bring that horse to water and that horse will not drink, because it knows that in this system, their group directly benefits from this system that is set up. And it's not a hatred for the other group, it is a love for their in group, the white group that they hold so dear. They will vote every time to have this power over the others. It's a zero sum game to them. So having universal health care is taking from their in group. They won't vote
Hmm.
for it. Getting money out of politics is taking from their in group. They won't vote for that.
Right.
Abortion rights and name public education, name the issue. Their
Yeah.
perception is
There.
that it is taking from, giving it to everyone. The rising tide does not lift all boats for them. In their mind, that rising tide is actually taking from them, because they have 99% of the pie in their mind. Because so taking from that white group and giving it to everybody doesn't benefit them at all. So I think we definitely need to get louder, but I think we also need to understand what it is that motivates these people and why they are so
Hmm.
protective around these issues, so that we can, because I think just speaking truth to power is not going to solve all of this. It will wake
Right.
up the people who are susceptible to that message, but at the end of the day, there will still be people who are not seeing, who are looking at the same situation, the same set of facts, and will not come to the same conclusion as us. No matter how hard you lead that horse to water and try to force it to drink, sometimes I think those horses are just not going to drink.
Right, but as long the longer you deprive that horse of water, the more control you have over that horse. So
So I have a
there's
question,
that.
Sierra,
Yes.
because I've often wondered this, right? Like in races where you don't have someone of color, that communities of color or from a different religion, immigrant communities, what have you, if they don't have that option in front of them, for example, and let's say they've got 3 or 4 candidates that are all white, then how would you recommend that they pick? How would you recommend that they formulate a 4 or 5 point system, for example, to be like, okay, like I don't love my options, but of my options, which one serves my community best?
Are you talking about, so like using the Arab community as an example? So are you
Yeah,
talking about
perfect.
like so like the Arab community having two white candidates? Then what? What is the question? Sorry.
So
Then
the question is, right? Like, because I've been asked this a few times.
no, yeah, go ahead.
Um, how then do they determine, like, how do they kind of suss it out for themselves of, can I trust this person to do what I think needs to be done for my community, or are they faking essentially?
I think that, speaking mostly from the Arab community, because that's what I know the best. That's what I've seen the most of. Um, I think Latinos also kind of followed this trend. Uh, it's not like so the misconception is that two white candidates is bad for the Arab community because we see two non-white or non-colored people. First of all, we don't think of ourselves as brown. We think of ourselves as non-white. some of us think of ourselves as white, and sometimes it is really offensive when people call the Middle East brown because I'm not brown, and Lebanon looks like me. So, but so for us, sometimes that doesn't matter because if you're an Arab who sees yourself as very white, a white candidate is not spooking you, right? I'm sour cream, okay? Like white candidate is not spooking me. I have brown friends who maybe, but it's not so much that they're white. I don't think that just if you put an Arab candidate up that that would just be like, "Oh, look, they care about our community." Not necessarily. Not necessarily that the white guy couldn't serve our community either. Arabs aren't a monolith. I know you know that, but like there are so many things at play. Some of us are voting like on genocide. Some of us are voting straight up, you send my tax dollars to kill people back home. That sucks. There are some Arabs who voted for Trump and felt very strongly about Trump, knowing that he was going to commit a genocide. And the reason that they did is because they are conservative. They are conservative in religious issues. They are conservative in abortion issues. They are conservative in border issues. They did it the right way. And so, seeing all these illegals skip the line and watching the administrator not do anything about it really caused a lot of resentment for a lot of Arabs. So they were like, well, fuck the Democrats. They're funding a genocide. And they are letting all these aliens, immigrants, undeservings come in ahead of us who have been here. We've put in the work. We've built an entire community of businesses. We are thriving in Detroit, Michigan. We are building Dearborn up. And we are being stepped on and stepped ahead of by those Somali immigrants eating their dogs. That is not true, but that is the story being sold to Arab Americans. So, like, I think that that is more what they're looking at is that some of them are looking at issues and they see the Democrats as being on their side. Some of them are looking at it and seeing the Republicans as being on their side. A lot of us are in the middle going, no one is on our side. But I don't necessarily think that if I just put up an Arab candidate that all of a sudden my interests will be spoken to because we live in America, and at the end of the day, I think we are so hyper focused on this black white binary, and maybe
Yeah.
you get a Hispanic in there, maybe you throw in an Asian in there, but I almost never see anyone throw a Middle Easterner in there. Almost never.
Yeah.
It's like an entire demographic of people we never get talked to or
Yeah.
issues talked about. So
And
So
that
my
situation in
answer,
Michigan was wild because that coalition up there was led by Jill Stein. She was a big
and I hated that because I
so,
didn't like what she was doing, and I don't necessarily like Jill Stein, but I liked what she was saying about the genocide in Gaza, and that's I mean, that is how easy it is to get Arabs and Muslims on your side. Literally
yeah.
tell us that we're human and you don't wanna slaughter us in
But
mass
but
quantities, and we're pretty much like, "Damn, we're on your side."
But just about a month before that, there was photos that came out of her sitting at a dinner with Vladimir Putin.
Oh, I
So,
know. Yeah, she was a
it's
well,
liar.
crazy, but
so
That's
the
what I'm
I
saying,
reason,
think
she was a
I
fucking liar.
yeah, I mean, so it's crazy how those kind of things happen, and you're not like, well, wait a minute, do you know who she is that you're standing
Oh, yeah,
there?
because I
You
was the
know,
person going, "No, fuck Jill Stein, fuck Kamala
yeah,
Harris, and fuck this guy too,
yeah.
Donald Trump. I don't like any of them." I was actually a Cornell West girly, and no one knew who Cornell West was, so it's fine.
But I think it's hard for people like us to understand, why did the Cubans in Miami overwhelmingly vote for Trump? I mean,
well, so the reason
Because
that
they're
that
makes no sense.
because they're super conservative, and those are the people that got driven out of Cuba after the communist
Right.
revolution, who are
But
super
they
hyper
didn't
capitalist, and they own a lot of wealth, and
but
so
they
they
didn't
come
see
to
the
Miami.
signs that were held at the RNC?
No,
Mass
because No,
deportations now?
because in their
It
mind,
didn't
just like the
they
Arab
weren't gonna
community, in their mind, they did it the right way, so they are the
they were
correct immigrants, and
so
so you're
they
not
weren't
talking about them, you're talking about those
okay,
other fuckers, not me.
okay.
And so even though no matter and I get it, Kurt, because I trust me, I get it. I'm like,
Yeah,
"But
I
but
it's
Habibi,
hard
this
to
person is
understand.
not on your
Yeah,
side. You are
right.
just as easily as soon as they're done getting rid of the undesirable immigrants, bitch, you are next." They don't care. They don't hear it. They don't hear it.
Just like Caitlyn Jenner, she comes on there and says, "Oh, there's a problem with her passport. She can't travel internationally, but I
Mhm.
still support Trump." And it's like, you're never
well,
going to get it, are
this is
you? It's never going to sink into you that these people do not like you, and they will get rid of your ass the first chance that they have. They used you as the photo op. they got some of the people on the trans community to support them. They're
Modern
done
day
with you.
Uncle Tom's.
They're done
So
with you.
this is
Yes,
the reason
exactly.
why I am asking this question is because I think it's good conversation to have, right? And my answer back to that was, well, I think that you should pick the person that is the most authentic. Like, we're not all going to agree with everything, and some people are better at certain things, and everybody has different talking points. But if consistently across the board you find someone that is constantly like leaning into the uncomfortability when they get a tough question, for example, and you can tell that it's authentic, you can tell that it's not scripted. I said that's kind of my gauge for voting as a voter, right? And I'm like, I want to see the most authentic people. If they give me an authentic answer, if I can maybe look back in their social media history or whatever, and I can be like, well, that checks out. Like, maybe they were ahead of the curve on things and things like genocide, for example, and being like, nope, like that's a genocide and that's awful. And then they are consistently saying it. I think you could probably trust that person.
Yeah,
But
ideally, we'd
Tabitha,
have an informed
yeah,
citizenry with
Yeah,
an informed
right.
voting base, but
right.
that's where we are
Right.
long past
I
that
mean,
now. It's
I,
vibes based.
yeah, I appreciate that you say that and that you're that way, but Tabitha, come on. Your your
I get
your
it spiritually, girl.
expectations for the average voter are way out there.
Find
Well,
that a
They're,
lot in my
I mean,
political
I mean,
psychology class, Kurt. I'm constantly
yeah,
have you in the back of my head because like we're constantly reading studies about what do voters think, what does motivate.
yeah,
And Tabitha, I am you. I get it spiritually.
yeah,
I'm sitting there going,
but
no, I focus on the issues. I focus on the hypocrisy and the optics, and I want to know what your policy on foreign policy and what's your policy on universal health care and where do you stand and what do you stand for and nope, this is vibes based. People are
yeah,
literally picking
we
it the way they pick a March Madness bracket. They look at your name
yeah,
and
exactly.
ask what kind of mascot you have and what colors you have, and they go, "Well, shit, yeah, I like bulldogs in
Yeah,
purple and white. That's mine."
right.
well,
And you could get trounced by 47 points, but I'm still gonna like you. I'm still
though,
gonna vote for you.
Exactly.
I mean,
It's
we
a
just
real
gave
head
you the
scratcher.
yes,
examples of people
yes,
what
I
I mean,
know,
Caitlyn Jenner,
I
you know,
know.
she obviously thinks that Trump speaks logic. I mean,
If
so
you figure
it's
out why people vote against their own interests, I swear, not only do you need to write a book, but you are like the
exactly.
Oracle of Delphi. You're going to need to get a lot of attention from each one of us, and let's make it big.
Well, I thought it was important to mention at least because this was an actual voter that asked me this question. And so for anyone
Great
that
conversation.
actually was curious, I was like, it's
Yeah.
important for us to have this conversation. But yes, I do understand.
No,
And yeah.
yeah, we love the conversation and we love you and we love your logic, but come here, get back to
I know.
reality.
Then there's that critical thinking again, right?
Right,
Yeah, and a
right.
lot of people
Wake
don't
up,
have that.
wake up.
They're vibes based. That's why a lot of people are vibes based voting for, in
Exactly.
CD5 for JD Ford because he is the gay candidate. And I've heard a lot of people make that argument that he's gay. So obviously he will be
Yeah,
a slam
he's
dunk in
gonna fight.
Congress and
Yeah,
he can't fight for the average person. He can't fight for gay rights or Jackson Franklin being a cis hetero man will not be able to fight for an average person, a gay person, or anyone the way that an actual gay man can. Like, that is such a disingenuous, that is the reverse identity politics
yeah.
that the Democrats engage in that literally drives people fucking insane.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
see, here's
stupid.
where the logic comes in. People think that because JD Ford is gay, that he's going to fight for. Yeah, you can't say the word genocide. So if you cannot accept the fact that there's actual a genocide going on with a sector of people, how does that change if it happens to the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, because
Well,
believe it
if
or
it
not, JD,
does,
there are gays in Gaza. I mean,
exactly.
you're
But
bombing gays in Gaza.
But if it only is going to be something important to you when it affects you, you're not the candidate I want. I want a dude like Jackson Franklin that doesn't fucking matter if it affects him or not. And that's the problem with most people. Most people don't give a shit as long as it don't affect me. And that's where the white supremacy and the
Yeah.
colonialism and all imperialism and all that shit we were talking about earlier. They don't give a fuck as long as it don't affect them,
Well,
as long as they can keep their peace and
for people that really want to hear at length what Jackson Franklin thinks, Like, I also had an opportunity to talk with him on my podcast, right? Like, there are
Mhm.
people out there trying to have
Right.
conversations with these people.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And
so
we
seek them
continue
out,
to do
listen to
that.
their
We have to do
stuff.
that. Yeah. We need to do that. And if you don't know any of them, you want to know any of them, drop a comment in our pod, and we'll answer the questions, or find us on social media. Tabitha Ziegler. This is Sierra Martin. I'm Kurt Mullet. I'm known as Hoosier Blue. You can find us on social media. Drop us a comment and ask us. Ask us about some of the things we've talked about, because we'll be more, obviously, we'll be more than happy to talk to you, because that's what we like to do. And we promise we'll keep on subject. We won't
Yeah.
go off the rails like,
Hey, there
we
are, I think, 2 episodes in here, I don't know.
there could be, there could be. So what started out as talking about, what the hell did we start talking about? We started
Conversations in the Democratic Party
what we
during the
started
primary
talking,
season.
yeah, about money and the division that's going on in the party and all of that. So we've ended up here to talk about logical thinking of voters. So that's what we do. We dive into shit, and sometimes we make it make sense, but then other times we just confuse ourselves to death. So, thanks for joining this pod. Drop us a comment, a like, hit that bell so you know that when we're posting stuff, and find us on social media, and we'll be happy to have a conversation with you. I'm Kurt.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Tabitha.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.